Happy Friday, everyone! Today is a wonderful day because today is my last day of classes before spring break, so I'm going home for a week after today, and that'll be super fun. So Stevie, I don't know if she's told you, has just moved in to an apartment with some roommates for the first time ever, and I am kind of a veteran at having roommates. I've lived in dorms for 2 years, and I've had 3 roommates in those 2 years, so I'm kind of an expert at being a roommate. So, because Stevie's new to it, and because I'm such an expert, I thought I would give Stevie and everyone some tips on how to be a good roommate. Now, these tips come from some personal experience and just some general ideas. So when you share a room with a roommate, one of the biggest deals that you have to worry about is lights. So you'll have one light in the room, but at nighttime, one person's awake and one person is trying to go to sleep. What do you do with the light? So generally, what I think is that after 2 o'clock, it's pretty much accepted that the lights should be off unless both or all 3 of you, in my case, are going to be awake. Because it's kind of an acceptable time for everyone to be asleep, and if you're going to be up later than that doing homework, you should probably go do it somewhere else, like in a library or in a lounge. Or if you're just going to be on your computer late at night, you can just do that without the lights, because I just want to point out that you don't need lights to watch Netflix. Another big thing with the lights is if you walk into the room and the lights are off and your roommate is sleeping, do not turn the lights on. That is probably the rudest thing you could do. Phone use in the dorm is actually one of my biggest pet peeves. So if you're alone in the dorm and you want to make a phone call, feel free to pick up your phone, dial, take a phone call. If you're in the dorm with your roommate, then things get a little bit trickier. So if they've got headphones in, it's usually pretty okay for you to take a phone call. If you ask them first and they're like, oh, hey, I have a phone call, can I just do it right here? Then that's okay. Do not come into the room with your phone on, talking on the phone, and just walk in talking on your phone, because 1, your roommate could be sleeping, 2, they could be making a video, 3, they could be doing homework or something, and it's just you're walking in just chatting as if that's completely acceptable. Keep that out in the hallway unless you know no one's here, and then come back. That's just my personal preference. So having visitors, that is a thing that I dealt with a lot last year with my roommate. So basically, if you're going to have visitors over, you should definitely warn your roommate beforehand and tell them how many people it's going to be, and also make sure that they're okay with that. They should be allowed to say no if it's unacceptable. But also, if you are the roommate and your roommate is saying that they're going to have people over, it's okay if every once in a while a few people stay over at your room. It's you can live with it, and if not, then you can go find somewhere to stay with a friend or something for a night. It'll work out. If you do want to have friends over, don't invite 10 people over into your 12 by 12 room, because that is silly. So if you or your roommate has a boyfriend or girlfriend, you should probably only have them over every once in a while, and you should definitely okay that with your roommate. I went through this a lot last year where my roommate's boyfriend was literally over basically every single weekend, and it got really weird, and he literally basically lived with us on the weekends. So that's really not acceptable. I feel like it's acceptable for them to be over sometimes, so this should definitely be okay with your roommate. Another really big issue that a lot of roommates have is sharing things. So, especially food. So if your roommate explicitly offers you food, feel free to have some if you want some. If your roommate usually offers you food and there is food, feel free to ask, and if they say yes, have some. Now, if your roommate has food but never offers it to you, chances are they don't want to offer it to you for some reason, so don't ask, because they're going to feel like a really terrible person if they're like, no, you can't have any. So that's why when you do ask, they say yes. But if they're not explicitly offering it to you often, I would just stay away. One really obvious and general tip I guess I could say about being a roommate is just to stay clean. I'm probably the biggest culprit of breaking that rule in this room, but you share a space and each person might have their own personal corner or whatever. It just is bad for the other person if you're leaving your corner really messy and they want the room to look clean, because disorder can just be bad for certain people, or they can't study when things are disordered or whatnot. So it's just respectable to keep your things clean. Make sure to do your laundry every week. Make sure that you're not letting things pile up underneath your bed or whatever. Just keep things clean and respectful. So let's say maybe you're living in a dorm with a person that you've actually never met before for the first time, and so you don't actually know the person that well. Make sure that you have small talk with that person every once in a while, because you can easily just stop talking to the person and then things get awkward. And you don't want that to happen, because you don't have to be best friends with your roommate, but you do have to be sociable and respect each other and be nice to each other. So make sure to keep up small talk every once in a while. Another thing that I think I'm actually pretty terrible about, and I know another one of my roommates has an issue with this, is snoozing your alarm clock. It's actually really terrible if you keep snoozing your alarm clock, because that might be waking your roommate up and they don't want that. So I really have to work on that. But that's a really important one. Make sure if you wake up in the morning and you're going to set an alarm clock, make sure you set it for the time that you have to wake up, and you wake up at that time, and don't just keep snoozing it, because that's disrespectful. So Stevie, those are my tips for you on how to be a good roommate. Basically, in general, just be respectful of your roommates / housemates. Don't steal their food, and leave the lights off when it seems like a decent thing to do, and be a decent human being. So Stevie, I'll see you next week in video form, but surprise, I'll also probably see you in human form, because we're both going to be in Indianapolis for the weekend, so that'll be fun. Bye.